You guys are awesome. We love having you here. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. But did you know that we're actually part of a larger network? You find us on The Urban Conservative or tuconservative.com.
tuconservative.com is a conglomerate of a bunch of different shows and podcasts. You've got our show, Two Americas. You've got the Twins show, The Urban Conservative. You've got David Hensley's show, The Hensley Report. And of course, you've got Freedom Talk with Clarence Henderson.
So if you want to see more of this swirl, you got to get behind the paywall. $10 a year. It's basically ceremonial, honestly. You guys aren't making us rich. You're just making it possible. So if you want to contribute to people like us, to freedom fighters, to content creators, to the merchandise and all the other options and all the other bloggers and contributors that are on the way in the future, give us that small, measly amount of money and you can forward our ideological battle to the moon. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you.
Come here. Seriously, get lost. We need a moment.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Two Americas. I'm Nzinga.
I'm Scott.
And we are the conservative couple.
Absolutely.
Let me tell you how excited I am about today's show.
Always excited.
Today's show is pretty much a beauty pageant.
That's one way of phrasing it.
It's the left versus right. It's the beauty of the right and the OOGLAY of the left.
That's why today's theme is leftism makes you ugly.
It do.
Inside and out.
Exactly.
And we'll focus on the exterior today, although the left is doing its darndest to sell us on the ideological destruction that it wreaks on the human body. But in any case, Poopy Pants Biden is a trending hashtag on Twitter. I think it reached #1 at one point around lunchtime.
Well, the other day you said to me, I think Biden pooped his pants, and I thought you were kidding.
Right.
I was doing something, I can't remember what it was. And I was like, what? And I looked up at you and you were doing that face you're doing right now. And you were like really like slightly disturbed, slightly amused. And you were like, I think it's a real thing. I think he actually pooped his pants at the Vatican.
So the reason that this became a rumor and trended on Twitter was, I guess, the cameras got suspiciously cut off during his meeting with the Pope at the Vatican. And there was a lot of fussing around with the aides and the crews and everything, and nobody was saying anything. And then, you know, some rumors obviously reached the Twitterverse, and Twitter started the rumor mill is spinning. And then some individuals, I think Jack Posobiec was one of them, you know, got some receipts and went on his show, I think called Human Events Podcast. And he basically kind of dropped whatever knowledge he had. Personally, I haven't seen this episode, so I can't really give you much more than it is quite possible that our semi-insane geriatric president pooped himself in front of the leader of the Catholic faith, and he might have done so on television.
So in the comment section below, tell us, do you think it happened? Do you think that possibly a dookie ball fell out of his pants, rolled down his leg, hit his heel, and then rolled and just kind of went past
on that
him?
Beautiful marble floor in the Vatican?
Or was it more of a...
Oh, like a wet one?
Yep.
That's a good question.
Did he shart?
What texture do you predict that our president would produce? Now, here's the question. Here's the thing about this whole thing. It's what's sad about it, along with everything else that's happening in our world right now, is not so much, oh my gosh, did it even happen? It's that everybody who's listening to this and thinking about it for more than 2 microseconds is like, yeah, that could happen. And that's what's so sad about it, is whether or not this is a rumor. I can't say. I don't know one way or the other. It could all just be a bunch of made up claptrap. But the reality is that it's so plausible. That's why it's become this big thing. Is because it's not because people hate Joe Biden. It's just because the guy is so geriatric and out of it. There's all these stories going around in the news about his aides having to redirect him around the White House lawn. You can see it on camera. He's saying incoherent things. He's babbling all the time. I mean, there's been a lot of liberals who've even pointed out that there's some serious issues with this guy's cognitive decline just based on his speech patterns and body language. He's falling in the stairs.
True international under pressure.
So for the idea that somebody who's this far gone to basically lose control of his bowels in a high pressure situation that he probably isn't even supposed to be in is so plausible that it's almost just like, oh yeah.
You know, I was reading an article the other day, and these scientists from University of Arizona, they did this really like years long study, maybe like 20 years long study, where they tested the bowel movements of leftists, people who ascribe to socialism
You're kidding
and
me.
communism.
They did not.
And they have very loose stools. And then what happens is because of the leftism and the evil of it, like demons loosen their booty holes so they can't hold it. Leftism makes you ugly.
Communism makes your stool soft. You gotta firm that up with a little good old patriotism. You having a problem with the squirts? Maybe stop reading Trotsky. Read a little Edmund Burke.
Wave a flag every once in a while.
Let's go, Brandon. 3 times a day, like Hail Marys, and you'll have normal stool again.
It'll be firm. It's like fiber.
Oh my gosh.
We are so loud today.
Well, this puts that weird quote of Biden's in perspective, where he said, "My butt's been wiped." Here, we'll pull it up for the audience.
Does immigration need to be in reconciliation? Must it be in reconciliation?
What must be what? What must be what? What must be what?
I mean, it's not like royalty of past eras didn't have people who wiped their butts. I mean, that was literally like a job in medieval Europe.
Wait, they had a butt wiper?
They literally had a royal
I know
butt
they had
wiper.
whipping boys, but I didn't know they had
Oh,
butt
yeah, they had
wipers.
butt wipers and all kinds of interesting stuff. But I mean, look at this guy. I mean,
you
it's
think
entirely plausible that this
Okay.
guy was dropping pellets out his
But-
pant leg.
But let's be fair. Do you really think that he said my butt's been wiped? Or do you think that there's something else that he possibly could have said in that moment?
I think he was probably trying to be a smarty and said that and didn't realize that he was out of context with a bunch of reporters.
I don't see where that could be in any context outside of a 2-year-old learning how to wipe.
Well, this is the same guy who said, "Look here, fat," and talked about cockroaches and
But that
learning about
was-
black people and hair on his legs in the same sentence.
But to be fair, okay, let's be fair. Black people and roaches, everybody knows that is a thing, like because of low income. And somebody will be mad at me in the comment section, but I've been in several conversations over my few years in life where someone will say a fact about a roach, and then white people in the conversation will be like, "I didn't know that," and then the black person will go, like they don't know because they weren't low income enough to have roaches. So that is a thing.
Okay.
Black people are fascinated by y'all's hair. I've played with your leg hair.
You play with my hair all the time.
Exactly. It's fascinating. Okay. So that's in context. I wipe my butt's been wiped. I don't know.
Well,
Comment section.
Either way, comments. Tell us your thoughts and your theories. And
Where could that possibly be appropriate for a 78?
I think he's 81, isn't he?
For an old elderly person.
You know what?
That's
something I should probably know off the top of my head.
I
before
think
I
he's
make any-
78. Or is that Trump? Trump old too.
Yeah, these are both old men, but the difference in
one is, more
lucidity
spry.
is definitely different
One
than the other.
stool is much more firm
Oh my goodness.
than the other. Yep. So I don't know. I'm just wondering if he possibly said something else or if he actually did say my butt's been wiped, because if it is the latter, that is really, really concerning for a grown man to walk up to another grown person and say my butt's been
Right.
wiped. And they're not drunk and it's not an inside joke. Like there's no way that was an inside joke with a reporter.
He's 79.
I was somewhat correct.
You were close.
Yeah. So, his wife should probably be shot. Not really. Don't go shoot her.
Yeah, don't actually shoot her.
don't shoot
We were
her.
talking about the jab. You got to give her the jab. It saves everyone's lives.
Oh, that's what I
including hers.
meant. She should get
She should get the
she should
fifth
get
shot.
the jab for allowing her husband to be put on display like this.
Well,
I remember when he was running and it was that primary and I was like, who at the time I didn't know much about Joe Biden and his family at least. And I was like, who are his family members? Like you've seen my extended family. If anybody in my extended family, if it was a cousin or uncle or whatever that I didn't know that well, and I'm related to that person, and they're making a fool of themselves on a global platform, I'm stepping up to the press and being like, I really don't like this. I'm not close to my Uncle Joe, but I am still his niece. I think Auntie Jill needs to stop. Like I was like, whoever his wife is, she should be punched in the chin.
well, it's kind of like what's the Obama that's always talking anti-Obama stuff on Twitter?
I don't know that
like-
that account.
Yeah, there's an Obama. He's actually a direct relation to the Obamas. He's kind of like this
The Kenyan.
obscure
Oh, yeah,
Kenyan,
yeah.
and he's always going off about the administration, and
Yeah, I
he's a
know
big
that guy.
MAGA guy.
Yep.
I love how he's been buried by the press. He's actually got a pretty saucy, spicy accounts.
And he's blacker than Obama.
He really is. Speaking of embarrassing incidences and things that need to be brought to light, have you all heard about the man pageant at the Kentucky high school? This is an interesting one. So, according to Lexington 18, which is an NBC News affiliate out of Kentucky, parents react after a controversial photo surfaced from man pageant at Kentucky high school. And this is Hazard, Kentucky. The investigation is underway after controversial photos from an event at Hazard High School are causing outrage. As part of homecoming week, so this was a homecoming week event, Tuesday was costume day and a man pageant was held. And multiple photos were posted and then subsequently taken down from the high school athletics page. They appeared to show scantily clad students giving lap dances to faculty and staff. And I have the photos right here. We've even got girls in Hooters outfits, guys basically in panties with bras on. Yeah, they're definitely lap dancing on their teachers, some being old males.
Okay, Scott, answer me this. What's cute about that? Is there anything beautiful about that?
Or educational for that matter? No.
No, just beauty. Just beauty alone. Is there anything beautiful about that? A pageant usually has something to do with beauty, correct?
Well, I mean, these homecoming. The whole premise of homecoming week is it's like booster week. It's to get you all jazzed up for sports and get you all full of school spirit and whatnot. I remember back when I went to high school in, I forget what 2002, I think it was, or 2003. During our homecoming week, we had a Tootsie Day. Now, if you know Tootsie the film, back in the day, it was about a guy who dressed as
Tootsie
a
Roll.
woman to get a job because they weren't hiring any more men. And he was an actor, and so he played as a woman in a soap opera. This was a Dustin Hoffman movie. So we had a bunch of dudes show up cross-dressing, essentially, for that week. And I remember,
Did they give the teachers lap dances?
now, here's the thing. Yeah, there was no pageant. There was no lap dancing.
It was literally making fun of them. Like, it was like self-deprecating.
It was dudes in a dress, and it was weird. And the ones who
And they did
overcommitted.
it because it was weird, right? It
Right.
was like, watch us be weird.
Yeah.
Not, look at me, aren't I beautiful and
Well,
sexy?
this was pre the trans craze, so none of these guys identified as a female and was like.
But you get what I'm saying here, though, right?
This
It's
is not a beauty pageant. This is sexual perversion and predatory teachers who are so convinced of their own morality that they don't think it can even be questioned.
I say this all the time about this matter when when it's like about maps and down low maps. These people are down low maps. There's no way. Like when I used to work for the YMCA and I did like after school stuff with kids who were in middle school and younger. And I never thought about, what do you do with your PP? What do you want to give Counselor Z a lap dance at the pool later? Like that didn't cross my mind because they're children and that's off limits. Like people don't have like guardrails in their mind and they just let their sexual fantasies go wherever. And then they act it out in real life. And here's what we're seeing.
Yeah.
Again, leftism makes you ugly. And if you get mad, okay, Scott, you'd be better at explaining this. Why would we call this leftism?
We'd call it leftism because there's a few things happening at once here that are all basically in defiance of standard norms, right? Leftism, progressivism, they're all under the same rubric. The idea is challenging norms, pushing ahead, changing things, say like, no, don't pull that pillar out because then the whole thing collapses. Things like gender roles, things like, it's not appropriate to sexualize girls and boys
Kids
of a
can't
certain
give it-
age.
Minors can't give
Minors
consent.
can't give consent. But the progressives, by their very nature, have to challenge all established norms, and the leftists always do so in the most radical, extreme fashion. So that's why we would call a scenario like this, where you're sexualizing teenage boys and girls, and also various states of cross-dress and undress in this case, and then have them performing sexual simulations on the teachers. Now, I know what these teachers would do. They would say, Tyler was just being ridiculous. I'm straight. I've been married to my wife for 37 years. We have 3 grandchildren. Like, he was clearly just being a silly.
Down low maps.
Maybe, maybe not. The point is that a conservative or a right-winger like us would say, don't create the scenario in the first place. It's inappropriate, right? Not only is it not appropriate in that context, it's also borderline criminal. And I would say that there's a lot of charges you could file for these people. And let's play another game. Let's play a shoe on the other foot game for a second. Let's imagine this was a Catholic day school or parochial
I was just
school.
gonna say.
And they had a bunch of nuns sitting there getting lap dances from their boys, or vice versa. They actually had the girls in Hooters outfits dancing on the priests.
Or
Would you
even-
imagine the left wouldn't seize the opportunity to call them
or
hypocrites and
even
destroy
worse,
their careers?
if they were all dressed like Mary Magdalene.
Yeah. I mean, okay, well, now you're getting weird. Now it's getting real specific.
I'm trying to give it some kind of biblical context.
That's getting real specific. Like you've had a fetishist here. Like
No,
you've thought this through.
No, I'm saying put it in context. Like the teachers go to Hooters on Friday after school. The nuns read the Bible.
Yeah. That's your imagination's wild, woman. I love it. But here's the interesting thing about this whole story is the fact that it's a story, right? This should just be a cut and dry case of sexual abuse of minors. Teachers should have to issue apologies. It should have been a quick scandal. Everybody should be hiding their face from the press. People get fired. People get suspended. People get disciplined. Kids get talked to. Maybe a therapist is offered. We call it a day. Right? And everybody gets a little pissy on Twitter for 48 hours. The reason this is a big deal is because there's a lot of people who don't think it's a big deal and want this to become the status quo. We also have cases where they're doing mandatory trips to gay bars with elementary schoolers. They're supervising and chaperoning trips to gay bars.
I did not know that.
Yeah, you can pull this up too. But they're doing things like tranny story time.
hour,
I mean, this is not new. And I think everybody with a functioning cortex can see that this is part of a larger trend of things where it's not just about the sexualization of the students. It's about the cross-dress aspect of it, the lap dancing, the fact that the teachers think it's okay to sexualize the students satirically or jokingly or not. This is the push, right? This is the left winning. This is what they want. This is the world that they're cultivating.
And you could say it's like, oh, it's comedy. This went well past comedy. Like when people make pedophile jokes or whatever, like Michael Jackson, for instance.
Yep.
They're not, excuse me. They're not making fun of the kids. They're making fun of the pedophile.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you can feel when it's different. This wasn't a joke. This is like the embodiment of the Michael Jackson, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And the Harvey Weinstein or whoever else. Like if it was my kid in there,
it doesn't make sense.
I'm a little bit lost here. It doesn't compute for me. This isn't computing at all, because if I decide I'm going to work with children, and if one you've had I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time here because I'm so flabbergasted. I can't understand. I don't understand.
It's because you and I have a different frame of reference for what is and is not acceptable, right?
Well,
we have a line that's very firmly drawn, and we assume that society shared it.
Well, think about it like this: like when Scott used to teach modeling in LA, and
here.
Oh, sorry, in Raleigh, and you said like some of these grown kids, little girls would come up and try to do sexual things, and you'd be like, okay, and you close their legs
It
or
happened
whatever.
quite frequently, yeah.
Yeah, little kids will be grown. You're a attractive older male, and they're like, oh my God, he's so cute. Maybe he likes me. They don't, they're apparently some parents ain't having conversations that they should be having, but you did not cross that line because they gave consent. Like our society understands that kids cannot give consent to anything. And especially when it comes to sex with a grown person.
And the other thing is too, is that whole industry is troublesome because there's kind of a sexuality inherent to the whole thing. Like even when you're dealing with younger children, even the way you pose them, you do their makeup, the way you teach them to move their hips when they walk, it's all hypersexualized. And it's everybody knows that.
Right.
And so even when you take a look at the photographs that are produced from these modeling segments, it's like, wow, they're sexualizing children. So even in that respect, it's not like I'm super duper proud of doing that job. For me, it was more like I wanted to train them to be resilient and aggressive and confident, have good communication skills. And when I taught them like functional things, like for instance, like how to model walk or how to pose or anything, mostly I was thinking about it in terms of like angles and lighting. It's like, make yourself interesting, do weird things to your body, change it up. You know, the photographer will help you out with the rest. You know, but I wasn't teaching them like, all right, girls, straight knees when you bend over, you know, but that's what a lot of photographers will do. And that's why you get a lot of pictures of like 13 and unders doing these poses that are meant for grown women. And so,
You know what's crazy about the Black community, and I think Hispanics do it too. White people do it sometimes, but I think it's really big in the colored communities. They put their 2-year-olds in midriffs and stuff, or
well,
like
they also make them twerk.
off the shoulder stuff, and like give them a purse and make them stay in a different way, like certain ways. And then they even do like photo shoots with these
Right.
kids, and they make them look like grown. I mean, you know, obviously they don't have the curves and breasts and stuff, but they make them look like grown people with diapers on. And I'm like, sometimes I'll pass by them in on Instagram, and it's supposed to be like, oh my God, heart, this is so cute. Oh my gosh. And I'm like, this is weird. Why would you do that to your child and put them
Right.
out there for like grown men to be, or grown people, and just be like, oh yeah, she's cute.
Let's add that to the pile, right? The FBI hopefully confiscates later. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's a low income thing. I think it's like a trashy thing that you see. Because I've seen it like with white people too, and it's almost always that same type of person. You can imagine, you know, she's
People that get
her
stimulus
her
checks.
house is slightly lifted above the ground and it's gas powered. You know what I mean? Like,
People that get stimulus checks.
yeah, every month before and after COVID. Stimulus. Yeah, no, I think it's a trashy thing to do, and I think it shows bad morals, and I think that that's more prevalent, unfortunately, in really low income communities where they just haven't had stable family lives. I think they turn children into accessories, and they make them act like adults and act out sexuality because it's a big part of how they frame what womanhood.
You know what else it could be? It could be that beauty is a status thing. Like beauty adds to your status.
Sure.
It is what it is. That's just what it does.
Especially online.
And so I think that it's like, oh, I'm going to give my baby status. Like when Black people have kids that are mixed and they happen to have eyes your color, and they're like, oh, my baby has green eyes.
Well, it's just like millions of them. You showed me just like, and I was like, I went down a rabbit hole for 5 whole minutes, and it was just nothing but cute little mixed kids opening their eyes and having light colored eyes. I'm like, there must be a million of these.
Mm-hmm.
So clearly, don't use your kids for clout is what we're trying to say here in the long of it. Like,
And don't let them twerk and give the history teacher lap dances.
yeah, that's awkward.
Did anything happen to those teachers? I mean, I feel like if I was on the school board or the superintendent, it would be just like a massive exodus of teachers, and we'd be like, "Hey, new teachers!" And you know what I would do? I would try to work with the governor. Let's say I was a superintendent in Kentucky. I would try to work with the governor to be like, "Let's give an incentive for good teachers and like give them a raise or whatever. Do something like that so we can fill up these." Because all these people are going to prison.
Well, they're trying to make it sound like it's not a big deal. According to the article, under state law, superintendents have a duty to report any instances of educator misconduct to the Educational Professional Standards Board, EPSB, says KDE in a statement. If an investigation finds a certain educator likely violated the Kentucky Educator Code of Ethics, they're required to report this blah, blah, blah. If any citizen of Commonwealth feels that the Kentucky Educators Code of Ethics was violated by a certain educator, they can file a written complaint. So they're essentially passing the buck on, and they're just kind of saying, like, please don't file the complaint.
So it's the same thing they did in Loudoun County, except
Right.
for nobody got raped. They just have lost their innocence.
Yeah, and there was a mom, Jenna Smith, who was interviewed. She has a family member at the high school and kids in the district. She says the event should have been shut down the moment an adult realized that students were undressing. Quote, I think they should have at that point said, hey, I know this is a joke, but let's stop. This is now inappropriate. However, mom Holly Lane disagrees. It has been completely taken out of context, Lane says. There's only photos being shown on the internet, no videos. The photos don't show the teachers pushing the children off of them. Lane's son and her friend participated in the homecoming event. She says pushing the limits and embarrassing teachers is part of the fun. If everybody's perfect, then I would say, yeah, maybe we do need to rethink something, Lane said. But until somebody can prove that something is going on here other than just homecoming week and teenagers being teenagers, then I'm going to support my kids. The way that I think about it is I think that, yes, the kids should just be kids and they should be allowed to have fun, Smith said, but is giving a lap dance or witnessing somebody else give an adult a lap dance, is that child appropriate activity? To me, it is not. I don't know. I think we have a lot of people trying to justify the behavior instead of just acknowledging that this was, maybe a prank gone too far, But my issue is, again, it's like the mom said, the moment a kid is like starts undressing and he's going to do like a sexual simulated act, I'm grabbing him by the ear and I'm hauling him out of the room, right? Like that's how people should respond. It was a lot of
students doing that though. It wasn't one kid, it was several kids.
It's like this, you can see, I think in one of these pictures, you've got an entire group of girls, showing up in Hooters outfits. And it's like, well, it's probably a public high school. So that's probably like one of the more chaste outfits they see. So they probably are just so numb to it in terms of sexuality that they're like, well, that's not even necessarily an inappropriate outfit. That's like, this is the problem, folks, is if you keep pushing the sexuality so far that it becomes commonplace, then you can't even make complaints when things are legitimately wrong, because that's what the left does. They keep pushing the goalposts out further and further and further. And then eventually they'll just be like, but did the kid use a double-ended dildo on the teacher, though? I mean, was it maximum penetration? And when that happens, you could say there's something wrong happening.
It's fine. He didn't slap the teacher with it.
Right. He used Bactine on it before he inserted it. You know what I mean? Like, this is the problem. They just keep pushing the envelope until you're like, oh, I don't know. Is anything unjustified? Is anything wrong?
But we've talked about this with people who are on the left, and then they want to have complete sexual liberty and freedom. They end up having to be more legalistic than we are. Than Christians on the right. They have to sign consent forms and stuff like that because sexuality is intimate. It's supposed to be with one person. And then they're like, oh, we can make it with several people. We'll just put legalism around it and we'll sign papers.
Which is ironic because they're also the same people that would advocate not disclosing when you have AIDS with a sexual partner, as is now law in California. You no longer have to tell people that you have leaky pee-pee syndrome, which could kill somebody, and everybody's
AIDS,
just okay with that.
AIDS-riddled penis.
So it's not really about consent or any of this other nonsense. It's that they've painted themselves into a corner where when you have no foundational morality, when you don't have anybody looking over your shoulder and telling you what is and is not okay, you end up in these weird corners that you paint yourself into because your rhetoric doesn't make sense.
But then you have to be more legalistic than the people who you called legalistic.
Right, because you have no guiding light. Nothing makes sense. It's all just responses and putting out fires and contradictory double speak. It's very Orwellian.
It's either a free-for-all and people get hurt, or we got kids lap dancing the history and math teacher, or it's a free-for-all, but we have contracts that we have to sign.
I mean, it's also selective, right? Like certain groups will be okay to do whatever they want for now, right? Like, oh, the whole thing about like not having to disclose your AIDS is because they wanted to protect gay people due to like the stigma it produces. And so they're willing to basically let these gay folks commit homicide, premeditated homicide, and all in an effort to destigmatize it. It's the same thing they did with the Loudoun County rape incident with the pansexual kid who was wearing a skirt who forcibly sodomized a 14-year-old girl, and then they covered it up, put him in another school, and then he did it again. So it's the idea that they wanted to protect the trans narrative about bathrooms not being a rapey place, even though it is. And so this is the problem with leftism, is that in an effort to progress forward, as Stalin once said, they're going to break a few eggs to make an omelet. The problem is they ain't making an omelet. All they're doing is breaking eggs everywhere. It's just eggs all over the floor, just eggshells. They're just walking around, broken eggs.
Also, we forgot to add, like we talked about the girls in the Hooters outfits, but some of these people that were giving lap dances were young minor boys giving lap dances to grown men.
Right. I think I pointed that out briefly. Maybe I didn't specify.
I just wanted to make sure.
Apparently, you have to specify the gender to be outraged that a student is giving a lap dance to a teacher, but since it's a boy, maybe it make that worse in your mind. I don't know.
It makes it worse, but not really. But I think it's important because I guess you could put that in the gay category. So
sure,
it's a little bit more protected.
Well, that's probably why they're trying to make this a controversy. But that's an expression of LGBTQ sexuality. Therefore, it is okay. Protected, right? Speaking of leftism making people ugly. We've talked about how it makes your ideological framework fall apart. Now it makes you an ugly person. It also apparently loosens your bowels, according to Z. I'm not going to be quoted on this.
It was a study at Arizona University. Look it up.
That is hilarious. But we've got a great little photo gallery here for you folks. And we're going to talk about how it's kind of like those meth ads. like meth, not even once. And it shows you the slow progression from normal looking high school chick to snaggletooth bathroom whore. We're gonna show you how leftism transforms otherwise lovely young women into, well, you know, we'll show you.
She look a mess.
Oh my gosh.
She look a mess.
That's disgusting.
But she's only the tip of the iceberg, darling.
Well, she says she's an alien now. She identifies as an alien, doesn't she?
I don't know.
I can't keep up with these people. I can't keep up. I don't think they can keep up. But let's pull up our first good example of how leftism makes you ugly. Wow, that's a drastic change.
What is with the head shavings, like the side of the head shaving?
I don't know. That undercut is what it's called. It's called an undercut initially.
That ain't an under.
Well, it's that
That's a
style,
side.
right? It's like you get the swoop on top with the shortish hair, and then you kind of buzz cut it up to the scalp.
Well, then she also got her temple. She left her temple unshaved.
I feel like she just did everything she could to make herself sexually unattractive as like some kind of form of protest.
She's got her shirt off, so.
Right. That's the thing. That's the dichotomy. They're like, oh, I'm a sexual being and you can't judge me. And I'm going to have lots of sex and I'm sexy and I'm going to send out pictures of my tongue out and stuff like that. But then they're like, don't you look at me with conventional beauty standards, you patriarchal rapist.
Watch me cut my eyebrow. Oh, her eyebrow and her hair is blue.
I also want to know, okay, seriously, leftists, explain the blue hair to me. Why is that your uniform? Seriously. Is it to show allegiance to the Democrat Party? Because most of you say you hate Democrats. So it's not like a flag waving thing.
She was so cute too.
She was
Perfectly fine.
Nice, pretty, kind of Mediterranean looking girl.
Like pretty, like what? Like super pretty or like?
Oh, let's just move on before I get in trouble. Oh, wow.
All right, let's read some of this. Look at the dead eyes of the feminist gaming journalist. It's as if she's saying, all the empowerment I've had did not give me meaning in life.
All right. So, I mean, you know, you look
She
at
just looked like she gained weight and turned 40.
well, the hair changed. She clearly was straightening her hair before, which means that she was putting some effort in. And on the right's probably her natural hair. I don't know.
She just like
This
she turned 40 to me.
doesn't look like as drastic of a change. This just looks like a person who goes to the office without actually putting effort into their appearance.
Well, they also got her mid conversation.
Right.
So that's
it's not
really
the most
fair.
flattering face. Yeah.
Yeah.
This doesn't seem
She
to
just
me
looked like she aged a little.
like a dramatic example.
Yeah. Next. Good God Almighty.
Now that, on the other hand, is dramatic. This looks like she was like a big fan of the Winslows and was going for the Steve Urkel look, but she just didn't have the balls to go blackface.
She looked perfectly fine before.
She was cute before. She had like nice hair, cute smile, good teeth, big old eyes.
Now she's like grimacing.
It's like she's trying to look like an ugly boy, like an ugly 12-year-old boy. Because here's the thing, ladies, for those of you out there who want to do this like non-binary shtick, or you want to like go full trans, here's the problem. Your bone structure will never match the thing you have in your head. You're never going to look full enough or big enough or proportional enough to pull off the masculine look, which is why you look like crappy facsimiles of men. You're always going to look like little boys or like some kind of weird non-binary thing. That's the problem, is it doesn't look good and it will never look masculine, because your body size and your structure can't pull it off, right? This is why we get into that uncanny valley situation, even with like some of the best like surgical altered transvestites, is because there's always going to be these proportionality issues. That's why the ones who are really convincing literally have to like shave their bones and like go crazy on every aspect of their body.
And they still are lacking.
And even then, there's always going to be something that makes it look like it's a little too plasticky perfect, where you're like, hold on a second, something's going on here.
Ready?
Yeah. Okay, she was the first one. Oh, that just screams I hate my parents. Because she's not even looking that different. She went with the, I'm going through my weed phase hair.
She started dating a black guy.
She started dating a
That's a
Jamaican
Rasta.
or like a Haitian guy. She started putting on like the hair bands so that she can identify with the black folks. She probably went on a backpacking trip,
Well,
which
she's-
changed her whole outlook.
Also, she's at some kind of like, I don't know, Coachella. What I don't know.
Definitely one of
weird
those,
thing.
like,
'Cause
out
look at
in the
guy
desert.
look at the guy in the background. He doesn't have a shirt on. He's also written on his body. I can't tell what it is, but he wrote something on his body as well. So she's-
Prita, India.
no, I'm
Mujer
talking
me.
about the guy in the background.
I know.
You see right there. So she's at some kind of weird function, and that's not a sports bra. Also, she's not wearing the right size.
See, I look at a woman like this and I just think, oh, this is just her going through her rebellious phase. And I've seen this happen, before we got to fourth wave feminism, before we got to like trans stuff. So this to me isn't actually that extreme. I just kind of hope that at some point she realizes that like if she wants to date a high value man, she's going to have to shave off that crap on her
She
head.
doesn't want to date a man.
regrow
Scott.
her hair.
Scott, she doesn't want to date a man. Good God Almighty. Okay. She did the side head shaving thing. She's trying to be different, so she did the eyelashes, but they're pink and they're the size of butterfly wings because I'm different and unique. And she looked like she lost weight, but in a very like I snort cocaine way for breakfast.
Yeah, I mean, she already looked like she had an unhealthy body weight, so she clearly was
You
probably.
think so? She looked fine to me.
Nah,
that
just
picture.
looking at her, and looking at her bone structure and everything, she probably has some body dysmorphia issues. I would suspect this is probably a chain smoker who doesn't eat much. She could be a purger based on how much of it I can see from her jaw and how thin she is. She's starting to get to that Holocaust victim structure. This is probably a person who suffers from bulimia and anorexia or some combination of, or one of the other. Yeah, that's the classic undercut.
We're supposed to be making fun of these people, and you just
No,
make me
because
sad.
now I'm looking at this one and I am sad. This doesn't seem quite like the same feminist so much as this just seems like a person who really needs therapy. But then again, that could probably apply to all of them. So let's move on. Oh, well.
This just looks like she got caught at a party. She's trying to be sexy that night. And she was like, I'll wear this. And her friends tucked her into it. And then she got like really high or drunk or something. And then she's like, yeah, peace and love, baby.
Yeah, I'm not so sure I'm sold on this one. This doesn't necessarily look like a transformation. This just might have been a really ill-advised outfit in a drunken night.
This one is particularly heartbreaking. She went from elegant and lovely to generic hoe.
I think this guy's overselling it in this case. Let's move on to the next example.
Now this one, he's not.
Oh boy, see, here's that
Okay.
thing I was talking about.
The forehead tattoo is a sign of advanced sickness, since there is no coming back from that. Also, note the armpit hair, which Sigmund Freud, if he were alive, would argue this is a form of penis envy.
Rough. I don't know. Anytime you tattoo your face, you're basically making a lifelong mistake.
If you tattoo your face, you're a true believer.
Yeah. I mean,
You are a real believer. You are sold out for the cause.
like Mike Tyson's tattoo on his face. You have to be Mike Tyson to get away with that. And even then, he can't pull it off.
Who's that one that was like, I'm a rock star? Who's that rapper? Post Malone. She's Post Malone level.
Yeah.
I got respect for her.
The armpit hair says, I'm committed.
Armpit hair just says, I like females, and females really deep down want a man, and I'm going to do what I can to look like one. So I'll just have a little patch of hair.
Why do they always shave their head? Again.
They shave their head and not their pit.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to go to all this trouble to shave your head, but you can't seem to put the razor under your arm for 4 to 5 seconds. That's just
It
lazy.
doesn't take long. Literally, I just did it the
That's
other
just
day.
lazy.
Yeah.
But they don't want us to demand it. That's why she's showing us her pit hair. Let's move on from that disaster. Well, this looks fun.
Okay. Objectively speaking, she's her countenance and then how she did her hair. You could tell she doesn't really like herself in the picture on the left, right? She doesn't have a lot of confidence, so she doesn't give off beauty, if that makes sense.
Right.
And so she wasn't super cute to begin with, but I think it's mainly because of her insides, and I think the right picture is a manifestation of the left.
So for those of you who are not watching this, essentially we're looking at a very generically sort of cute, probably 16, 17-year-old girl with bangs. And then it transforms into something like Macaulay Culkin and during an ecstasy binge with fake dildo bra on her, some kind of weird dude hair and lots of armpit hair. I don't know.
And she lost weight.
I agree with you. I think this was not a slow transformation. This girl was already kind of messed up, and that I think this was inevitable
I'm just reading her countenance. That's all. All right. I'm tired of looking at her breastises.
Yeah. Oh no.
What in the name of God?
Oh no. So, she's like a very average, like this is a 4 out of 10 to me. She's not really very attractive. She's just normal looking. And then she decided that she was just going to lean into that skid and become.
I actually like that picture on the left.
Yeah.
Like it's just a nice studio picture. And I think she's like emitting fierceness, like America's Next Top Model.
Yeah.
I'm not saying she's pulling it off. I'm just saying she is. She's doing it with confidence. And in the right, she's got a painted on mouth on her neck.
Yeah, she's got the undercut. She's got the swept back. Like
She just has hair on top
I play
of her
for the
head.
Brazilian World Cup team haircut that usually goes on men. And she's an activist, of course. I don't understand it. I don't understand it.
Jeez.
All right. So you got yourself what is like a lovely Latina looking girl with some curly hair, kind of coyishly and cutely looking at her shoulder. And then you got, again, the shaved head look on the right with the neck tattoos. Honestly, the one on the right, that looks like the kind of chick who would hang out with like a cartel dudes at a bar and be like, I slept with Domingo. He has a lot of status. He has a lot of status.
Trump, he mean what he said.
She just looks like the kind of chick who like, you just look at her face and she knows where the heroin is.
She also has a razor hitting her mouth, so be careful.
Yeah, that's the one who's like, I cut you. I believe you. Oh, this one has
wow.
a fun before and after video.
This pretty YouTuber found some feminist writings, chopped off her head, and became, a slut. Hi, I'm a slut. A slut. POFM? I don't know what that is.
I don't know. They come up with stupid acronyms to make themselves feel special. It's like LARPing.
I'm a slut that doesn't sleep with anyone because I'm a slut on the inside, but not the outside, because nobody wants to sleep with me, but I do sleep with them, but only hypothetically, but because I'm a slut.
I don't know. It's weird. But yeah, I mean, very cute, kind of like reddish brown hair, very
Super cute.
Classically cute white girl.
Yeah.
And then on the right we have
her like evil sister. Her evil sister.
It's like
twin.
it's like the one who like I'm a cutter and I hate my sister because she's pretty. And
Marsha.
Yeah, she's got the black sodden looking mop hair. She's got the crappy bangs that aren't symmetrical on purpose. She's wearing like a gray dingy dress. This is everything about this just says, why don't you love me more, Dad?
Well, she's also look how she's confident on the left. She's got her hands up. You can tell she's probably smiling doing that video. Her hair is really pretty and bouncy, like she conditions it. And on the other one, she's like, hi, I'm a slut. She's looking down. You can't see her face. All you see is the top of her head. And she dyed her hair jet black.
Right.
And it's not flattering.
This is a reflection of my soul.
She doesn't have as much sun. And the background is very similar. So it's not the background changing her skin or anything, her skin tone. She just got whiter.
See, again, the hair, it's like, listen, I get the symbolism, right? It's like, oh, well, hair is classically sexualized and I'm freeing myself by shaving it and I'm trying to defy your standards of beauty because most men find hair attractive. Yeah, they do. So you're limiting your options. And when you do this, again, you look like crappy facsimiles of boys. Like there's been a couple people in my life who I think could pull off having no hair. She's one of them. And you know why? It's because she has hyper feminine features. She's small, she's dainty, and she's really pretty, right? And she could get away with being bald, but she was only bald because of chemo. She didn't choose to shave her head. She had to shave her head. Otherwise, it was just going to fall out in clumps, right? When you do it, you're just being an idiot. You're limiting your options. You're not as attractive. And frankly, most of you can't pull it off.
She didn't shave her head.
Again, it just looks like a weird 11-year-old boy going through a goofy phase. She went from being a cute, pretty girl to whatever the hell that is. It's like the actor from that one Supernatural show where they go into the upside down world. You know, the weird little kid who has like the gap in his teeth.
I never watched it.
Stranger Things. She went and turned herself into the boy from Stranger Things.
She looks like a 12-year-old who is on a soccer team, and they're like, "Yeah, we're going to nationals. We're all going to dye our hair blue."
Right? They did it for Spirit Week. She's doing it for,
and all the parents are like, "Whatever, dude.
Gender queer theory."
Go ahead, Johnny." Wow, and she was so cute before. She's cute on the right, but she looks like a cute 10-year-old boy.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh wow.
This one just looks like she went through a really bad breakup, got really hammered and freaked out. Like she just chopped her hair off and like she got really high, took some pictures, and now she regrets it and deletes her Twitter account. Oof. You could already see the warning signs in 2013. I went to high school with a girl who changed her hair weekly, and she was literally running out of hues to dye her hair because she'd already done them all and she didn't want to redo them.
You're gonna run out of colors at some point.
You're gonna run out of hair. Eventually, it's gonna dry out and turn to sawdust and fall out of your dang head.
Yeah, her hair probably like pine straw at a certain point.
It felt like pine straw because we were in martial arts together. So occasionally I would feel her hair or have to like put her in a headlock or something. I'm like, this stuff feels like sandpaper.
Yeah, that's cute.
But you can see like the reason I'm describing the hair is because the girl on the left has like some kind of weird mustard artificially colored hair. And then on the right, she chops it off again to look like a boy from a trailer park with some kind of modified faux rat tail bun thing on the back. If you're going to show your...
She looks like Rufio.
But like a
From
really
Hook.
white, trashy, not Asian version.
Rufio from Hook. That's what she looks like somebody. Rufio.
Well, looky, I got hooky.
Yes. That was my movie.
It was a good one.
Oh, sorry.
All right.
Oh, okay.
How many more examples of this do we have? Because this is making me depressed.
That's just this.
Oh, and there's a classic. We got our first celebrity in the list. Now look at that transformation.
Rachel Madcow. Okay, now first of all, she did have some slopey shoulders, like bodybuilder shoulders for like the guys who don't have broad, strong shoulders that actually go out that way.
Right.
She just had like really thick shoulder muscles.
You know what though? Like I don't even notice that kind of thing because most guys are just going to look at you from the neck up in this kind of photo to see if your features and everything are all right. Yeah, I know. I get it. In reality, it'll be neck down when you can see everything else. But this is a woman who looks very normal, womanish. Like she looked like she's attractive,
Feminine. She looks like a little cheerleader.
Yeah, she did. She looks like a typical blonde mean girl. You know, not necessarily Queen Bee, but she's probably up in the top 4. And now on the right, she just looks like again like a 14-year-old boy who's just trying to find his look.
Or like a 14-year-old boy whose favorite subject is science.
No,
I love chemistry.
I don't know. I just don't get it. And you know,
She looks like the post-leftist Rachel Madcow looks like she would get beat up
by her
the
previous
pre-leftist.
self.
Yes.
But isn't that the case? Isn't that always the case?
No, one of the girls look like she has a straight razor hidden in her gums.
Oh well. I'll give it to the straight razor girl, but I feel like in every other case, the pre-feminist, the pre-leftist version of these selves would be almost always win a fight against their leftist versions later.
I guess
They
so.
look healthier. They look like they got maybe a few more pounds on them.
Oh, you got a point, actually. Now that I think about it. Yeah.
Seriously.
Well, look at Scarlett Johansson here. Okay, so first of all, Scarlett Johansson pisses me off because she got famous being a sex symbol.
Right.
That's how she got
I mean,
famous.
look how much boob she's throwing around in this photo.
Yes, and it's almost no arms and a bunch of boob and almost no neck. And then on top of it is a big head. But anyway.
Getting catty over here.
But that's not the first thing you see. The first thing you see is that pretty red dress and giant boobies. So she got famous looking like that and being that character in movies. I remember seeing a movie where she played a mistress. She did some scenes. I had to skip through it and fast forward. I was like, Jesus, be a fence. I was like, oh my God, it was so graphic. It was on top of a desk and everything. It was, and it was too much for me. And then now she's like, I'm no longer a sex symbol. I don't want to be that. Like after you got rich and famous, being that to the point where she's got the FU money now.
Right.
And now she's like, I'm going to cut my hair and look like a 12-year-old boy.
But this is what the leftists always do, is that they'll take advantage of the systems that are in front of them, get rich, get successful, get powerful, get that FU money status, and then all of a sudden they reinvent themselves and they pull the ladder up behind them or slam the door on any other woman that comes next, because what they want is they want to have it both ways. They want to be able to get the power and the influence, and they know how that's done. It's why Bernie Sanders owns 3 houses and did a big book deal and made a bunch of money. And even when confronted about his massive hypocrisy, given the fact that he's a freaking communist, he just, glibly tells the reporter, oh, well, if you wrote a book, you can make millions too. It's like, yeah, exactly, Bernie. Welcome to the capitalist side. But that's because that a-hole knows that he's not what he says he is. He wants to split the baby and have it both ways. He wants to be rich, enjoy the capitalist largesse that we've created for him, but he also wants to feel good about him, say that he's really against it all. This is exactly the same thing that Scarlett Johansson's doing. She's willing to flash her tits for the first 20 years of her career to get ahead, but as soon as she reaches a status where she can actually morally point her finger and wag it in everyone's face, she will take the first opportunity to chop her hair off and put on a Hillary pantsuit and pretend that she hated it all along.
Also, when she got asked questions, I think it was from one of those, what's that movie? Those movies she did with the superheroes.
Oh, the Marvel movies.
No
one cares. So many of them, they're interchangeable at this point.
I did like Thor because he was real big and real strong. In an interview after one of those movies when they were like promoting it for the premiere and all that jazz, they asked her in that suit that she wore because she put on underwear. I mean, she's a sex symbol, by the way. She shows her body on movies all the time. And she's like, wow, do you ask any of the guys that? I'm like, no, because we don't care about men's boxers. Women's underwear is actually much more interesting. It's all different kinds. So no, we're not asking the men. The men are sex symbols, but it's different for men. I'm sorry, honey, but you play the game. You sold your soul. And now you're mad because people are asking you to pay up.
And then, that's the thing. I don't even think she's mad. I think it's one of those things where she knows she can get away with that indignation thing, that bit.
Because it's cool
Because
now.
it's cool to be a bit. But if you took her back 30 years, she would have been like, well, I like to use the cheekies on Saturdays because, I'm just laying around in the house and it's kind of comfy, but it still makes me feel sexy. But then when I'm at work, I got to wear a thong because, it's a very tight outfit. It's a superhero. You're supposed to show off your butt.
Actually, no, I don't wear anything.
Yeah. And she knows how this game is played, and it is manipulation. But let's wrap this up. Let's get a couple more extreme examples, and let's move on.
This next one I think is very is probably the most amazing transformation. So there she is right there, looking so cute. Oh my god!
Oh man, that's a woman who just cut off her own nose to spite her face.
Holy crap! And I mean her countenance. I mean. Her eyes, she looks high and like one eye is smaller than the other. She looks
cheeks
terrible.
Look swollen, like she's enduring some kind of allergy attack, like anaphylaxis.
She looks terrible.
And it looks like her chin disappeared. It's almost like she's actually managed to achieve an underbite that she didn't have before.
I wish we had a straight on picture of her. Jeez. This is the most frightening of the collection. What's disturbing is that in my Eastern European city, black lipstick is becoming more popular among quote, normal girls.
Feminism, not even once. Wow.
Yeah.
And these are the last examples.
We have
all delightful. I'm sure you've seen them around your own hometown. But listen, folks, there's a reason that the left has a uniform, and this is a uniform, very distinct uniform. Fitting in with an affinity groups or with peer groups is really important for people of a certain age. And as you drift away from your family and you're trying to kind of find your ideological bearings in the world and kind of discover who you are and what you believe, some people are going to wander off into the sunset and try some weird stuff. Hopefully they make their way back to reality, right? Mm-hmm. I have faith for Coachella Girl. I think she'll eventually cut the dreads off and realize that they were really stinky and high maintenance. The rest of these girls, I don't know if they're going to make it. For those of you out there who are, thinking like, okay, well, are these two just going to mock people for their appearance? Like, no,
yes.
We're trying to, that's part of it. But we're also trying to point out a deeper issue here, which is that the left makes you ugly, not just in your soul, but in the outward projection of it. And you want to know what? It's on purpose. Because they want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to be like anti-sexuality, anti-male gaze, anti all standards of beauty. You can be fat, you can be ugly, you can be man, you can boy, you can be any permutation thereof. You could have weird things sticking out of your nose at weird angles that make you look bizarre. You could manufacture an underbite. and it's still going to be a pretty face according to a leftist, but they also want to have the sexual appeal and the sex too, right? So they've got to erase the sexual standards that exist and the beauty standards that exist and twist your mind up, and not so much the point to where it's like, well, you better suck the male penis or you're a bigot. First of all, like, why would you need to call it a male penis? It's already a penis. It's inherently male, or female penis. I don't know the rules, but this is the problem. They want to have it. They want to have their cake and eat it too. The same way that Scarlett Johansson wants to get rich off of her beauty and sexuality. And then as soon as she reaches a point where she has enough money, she can kind of pretend to be this righteous, virtuous, feminist freedom fighter that really never wanted to use her boobs to make millions of dollars. Not even once.
Mm-hmm. Here's the other thing too. I think it shows you what an identity crisis can do to you. People like, if they don't have good morals, good values, and a good foundation, and then they go through crises, like they go through a terrible breakup,
right,
or a man breaks their heart in some way, dad doesn't love them, whatever the case is, they don't have that foundation, and so they fall for anything. And I think when people start realizing, and I think sometimes people unfortunately realize this when they're older, which sucks because they have pictures like this on the internet, and then they get older and they're like, dang, I wish I hadn't done that. But when you have a crisis like that, usually the road or the path that you should take is the one that makes you do the hard thing. The hard thing is not leaning into your rejection. The hard thing is not leaning into your anger. It's not leaning into your sadness or your depression or whatever. The hard thing is getting out of those things and facing those things and confronting them and trying to make and eradicate them from your life. And people like these folks, they clearly leaned into their hatred and their pain and their self-pity and all of that stuff. And people do this thing where they're like, I'm beautifully broken. Coronavirus. There's nothing beautiful about brokenness. I'm sorry, there just isn't. That's a lie.
No.
The only thing that I can think of is the work Jesus did on the cross when he bled and was spit on and was crucified for us. That's the only beautiful brokenness that I can think of. Like, I hate that beautifully broken thing because it's so stupid, because brokenness creates relationships that are toxic. Brokenness creates all the pictures that we just saw. Brokenness makes you ugly. And even if you are gorgeous and you're an 11 out of 10, if you've got a bunch of brokenness in your life and you lean into that, all of that ugly is going to come out at some point. I mean, I've talked to countless men who say she was smoking hot, but God, she was crazy. And they want nothing to do with her. They don't even want to pass her in the grocery store. That's what these identity crises do to you. And that's why we say leftism is ugly, because leftism, part of it at least, tells you to worship your feelings, and call yourself beautifully broken. And it's a complete lie. And when you lean into those negative things, you come out looking like trash and cutting your hair and putting black lipstick on and losing weight and tattooing your freaking face. Not obviously not every time, but in any of those things where you lean into your self-pity, you end up worshiping yourself, and it creates uglyism.
Let me think about this, ladies. For those of you who may disagree with what we're saying, and you're like, well, I like my undercut, and frankly, my nose ring gets me a lot of compliments from guys. You look like the female equivalent of Jesse from Breaking Bad. You're like those douchebags who wear leaf, festooned socks and weed jackets with big money symbols on it. You're like the gas station folding knife. Gaudy, ugly, cheap, and ineffective. It's gross and nobody likes it. And the only people who are going to compliment you are the weird, creepy, slutty dudes who are going to be in your social circle to begin with. The kind of dude who's going to like your post about being beautifully broken is the kind of dude who's going to slip you Special K. You've been warned.
What's Special K?
Ketamine.
Mm-hmm. What's that?
Date rape drug.
Ooh, girl. Mm-hmm.
Also for amusing activities amongst the LGBTQ community. But let's move on from banging on ugly broads, and let's get into something that might actually help our audience, which is our use of force segment. All right, so for our use of force today, we're actually going back a year. This is a tweet I found. In this video, we have a Welsh male, gotta be in his late 70s, early 80s. And he's attacked by a mugger and, he's trying to take his money. Well, I know, see, I'm at a loss for words here, but this old grandpa's got me kind of impressed. He's got his dukes up and he just ain't having it. You can see him jabbing the attacker in the jaw and, trying to struggle with him and, deflecting hands and that sort of thing.
The punch is so cute.
Here's the thing, right? We always talk about the two big things, legality and morality, right? All right. Obviously, he has the legal right to defend himself if that's a choice he wants to make. He's clearly outmatched in terms of age and athleticism. 77-year-old man, according to this article. But you know what I love about it is that he just doesn't care about any of that. He doesn't care about the age difference. He doesn't care about the fact that he may be old. He's giving him the gesture, come on, let's do this. I like the spunk in this old man. This is my kind of guy. I want to have a pint with this fella. And here's the thing. Nothing he's doing is physically effective, but it works. It deters the attacker because the attacker is not particularly impressive either. I mean, this guy's just... I was going to say, I'm like, is he being robbed by another senior citizen? This is the most awkward fighting I've ever seen.
Well, it could be that the attacker was like, maybe he's just playing with me right now and he can actually knock me out.
I don't know, but everything about this is ridiculous. But here's the thing.
Like how he would...
Yeah, it's just... I mean, it looks like he's got a knife and Grandpa's just kind of deflecting the little stabbing motions that are sort of half-hearted and slow. I mean, everything about this is really silly, but it's still a potentially lethal force situation. Okay, so let me get a little more focused for you. All right, again, in a situation like this, armed mugger coming at you, especially with old age, you have to think about the disparity of force when you're talking about legality. And this applies in Wales as well as it does here. If you have someone like Z going up against someone like me, she is justified in using more force based on the disparity of force between us. I am so much larger and so much more dangerous physically and present such a larger threat to her that even if I were unarmed, she could theoretically kill me and get away with it in court because of the disparity in force. Now, in this case, you've got an old man who's 77, according to this report, being confronted by an armed attacker. If he were to pull out a gun or a knife of his own or a billy club or a rock and take this robber out, he would probably be legally justified in doing so. So if you have the higher force option, use it. If you're a smaller individual and you're faced with someone who is threatening you with violence, who is maybe not armed, you may still be legally justified in doing so if you feel that your life is in severe danger of being either taken from you or being severely injured. Now, in the case of this, again, this is clearly a guy who maybe boxed a little bit in his youth and he's trying to bring back the glory days. Not advised against an arm attacker. His technique's terrible. It's ineffective. As you can see here, he's punching the guy in the neck. It literally doesn't do anything to the attacker other than slightly move his head and inconvenience him.
But he's doing the stance that you taught me.
Right.
With his feet.
Now
he did something when he was a youngster.
But again, it's not effective in this scenario and it could have gotten him killed.
Right.
But here's what I love about all this. And frankly, I'm just gonna give you my quick opinion and I'm gonna let somebody else wrap it up first. The biggest thing is having the will to fight. Making sure that you have made the mental decision what scenarios, under what conditions you're willing to put your life on the line. This old man is willing to do it for pride. And you know what? God bless him. I love it. He's just not backing down. This guy's going to be a man till he dies. And he gets to go and show his, hopefully still alive wife this camera footage, which, hey, at 77,
She's
sometimes.
She's going to be like, I'm going to make you your favorite casserole.
Sometimes you got to reignite the passion any way you can.
I never liked that casserole.
But the biggest thing I would take away from this isn't any special technique. It's not any kind of maneuver. It's simply willpower. And, let's let Liam Neeson close this segment out for me.
The training is nothing. The will is everything. The will to act.
Oh, I can't wait to watch you fight as an old man. Some whippersnapper's going to try to take my purse.
Come back here.
Get him, baby. I'll be like, stand back. As I try to get my gun out. Wait a second.
I left it in my other purse.
I'll be like, move, Scotty.
Hopefully we'll be better trained than this, but you never know.
Hopefully we stay agile and keep
Right?
stretching.
Seriously, there's no reason for you to be out of shape in old age. You can work out.
I mean, this guy is in,
He's bouncing around on the balls of his feet.
yeah.
Well, listen, folks, thank you for bearing with us today as we went through that whole rash of OOGLAY. But I hope that one of the things you take away from today's show is that there's just so much about the left that is just trashy. You know, not just in terms of its belief systems and its ideologies, but just in terms of what it does to the body, what it does to your form, what it does to your aesthetic sensibilities. I mean, we've done studies on this, which are actually accepted by all parties involved. Everybody
real
knows
studies.
right-wing girls are more attractive. This is something that they've actually done studies on, scientific studies, that peer-reviewed studies.
I mean, even if you just do your own study and look at the pundits, like the talking heads.
Anecdotal experience will tell you
it's
that.
just, it's really, really lopsided.
And there's a reason for that, right? We don't look at beauty as a virtue inherent by itself, right? A woman being attractive is not necessarily a good by itself.
Speak for yourself.
But it is a reflection of something else. Discipline, hard work, taking care of yourself, right? Working out, like eating right, taking care of your skin, like having a certain pride. You know, this is something that, like, the British were very big on this for a long time. You know, they took a lot of pride in their appearance, in being well put together. They trained their children as such. That's sort of starting to fall apart now with their sort of leftist infusion Bolshevik culture. But, you know, they used to have that culture, and then they brought it our way, and we used to have it for a while. But, you know, you read these old books about these stern mothers who are always telling their daughters, like, you just don't leave the house with your curlers ever. Don't let anyone see you with the curlers. And, you know, you always have to be clean, and you have to wear these types of dresses on Sunday. And, you know, I get it. Like, people probably got sick of that stuff, which is where a lot of feminism, I think, kind of stemmed from, was that there were certain things that were maybe a little too uptight, maybe a little too inconvenient, maybe a little too stifling for the opposite sex. And so I understand why feminism exists. The problem is its current iteration is generating a bunch of crappy facsimiles of boys that are cutters and bulimics and drug addicts who are mutilating their bodies. And I don't think it's about women's empowerment anymore. I think it's just about hatred of reality, hatred of self, hatred of God. And I think that it's manifesting itself in their physical appearance. You know, women used to whine at us about being pigs, and so they wanted to be sexual pigs themselves. This was a sexual revolution, right? Sort of second wave feminism. The original feminist movement, I pretty much don't really have much of a beef with. Mm-hmm. They wanted voting rights. Okay. I'm not entirely sure that worked out the best for the Western world, but okay.
It didn't.
I think that they, wanted a certain amount of freedom of movement and other things, which, again, okay, if you want to take those risks, I think that's fair. I just don't understand all the movements that came after that. You know, second wave feminism was basically all about being a slut, and we saw how that turned out. Childless parents, HPV, AIDS, bunch of depressed women. And third and fourth wave feminism, I don't even think are feminism. I think that's just the word they used to describe screeching hatred.
Well, second wave feminists hate third and fourth wave feminism.
Right. Like Camille Paglia is a good example.
They're like, what is this?
Yeah, they don't even
What is this
want to be
mutant?
identified with that movement. That's why they're trying to kind of separate the terminology.
Yeah. I mean, like, you got Camilla Paglia, who identifies as she's a lesbian and has been, I guess, most of her adult life. And she is an atheist. So this isn't a Christian woman that we're talking about. And I think she hasn't done any surgery or anything like that. And she dresses like in like leather jackets and jeans and stuff.
Yeah,
but
she's always had the short hair.
yeah,
Before it was cool.
She thinks that maybe she was born in the wrong body. Like maybe she should have been a man. You know, like this is the type of woman we're talking about here. And even she is concerned about our generation and the next. She's a professor and she's been teaching for like 40 years. So you got a second wave feminist who fought her school, she and her classmates, on having a curfew. They gave the women curfews that they had to be in the dorm at 10 o'clock or something like that. They
Yeah.
were like, no. And so they fought. They were like, no, give us the freedom to risk being sexually assaulted, rape, or whatever. We want to be able to do what we want to do, just like the men, which I think is actually fair. It's that give me liberty or give me death thing. It is up to you to be wise. Like Scott will tell you, I'm very serious about my safety. I don't play games about my safety.
Yeah.
And I make him not play games too. And everybody else around me. And then with other women, I'm like, hey, walk her to make sure she's her. But, it's just being wise about
So he's
safety.
checking up on everybody.
I really am. And even if they don't know it. But I can't remember what I was going with that, but you got women like that who are looking at third and fourth wave feminism like, what? Scratching their head and trying to understand it.
And the problem is that this new wave is speaking for everybody else, right? They're co-opting the work of their predecessors to push new agendas that have nothing to do with what the original protesters or the original movement had. And this is true across the board, by the way, ladies. You look at the ADL, and the ADL used to stand up against anti-Semites and bigots and that sort of thing. Now they're basically a hate group. I mean, I wouldn't trust anything that they say at this point because they're out there just trying to destroy anybody that's not leftist. You look at something like the SPCU, or I'm sorry, the SPLC, Southern Poverty Law Center. They used to stand up for everybody's rights to free speech and civil rights and that sort of thing. Not so much anymore. Right? It got co-opted. It's the same thing with the institutions. It's the same thing with feminism. Good intentioned movements get taken over by Bolsheviks and other lunatics, and they get twisted and form to something new.
I think a good example right now is like we don't hear much. Like we're talking about feminism right now, but this was like a 2016 conversation. This was not. This is not a 2021 conversation. Now the conversation is transgenderism, and so like I think we talked about this on one of our shows. If I was the little girl that got raped in the bathroom by a boy wearing a skirt, would the story be more mainstream? You said it would because of my skin color. I'm like, no. At the moment, the transgender activists, I'll say that community, they trump skin color. They trump the fact that you have a vagina and that your head is shaved. They trump everything. And so feminists now are bumping heads with the transgender community. And there are plenty of gays and lesbians, and I guess if bisexuals are real, who are going against the activist transgender, saying it should just be LGB. It should not be a T. So I'm saying that to say that the goalpost does move. And I think some people ascribe to feminism and stuff like that because they think that they get points for it.
Yeah.
You don't get points for that anymore. Like at a certain point, especially the more freaking illegal aliens they allow into this country, my skin color is not, I'm not going to be able to bank on that anymore.
No.
So I'm saying that to say that these things are fleeting. The only thing that's not fleeting is what you do as an individual and the decisions that you make about your character. We all have hurts and pains. We talked about this in the last show last week. We've all been shot. Everybody's got ish that they're trying to deal with and they're trying to sort out. Just because you've got ish doesn't mean you should shave your head and lean into it. That doesn't mean you lean into your pain and call yourself a broken XYZ. That means you just have some things that you need to overcome and you'll have a story to tell to the next generation. Everybody's responsible for their generation and then the one that comes after them. And I think if we take, I sound like freaking Jordan Peterson, but dumber. If we take responsibility for ourselves and our character and how we're going to conduct ourselves in society and how we're going to face our fears and our pains in our past and our trauma, the society will be so much better. And I think I said this last time. That's my charge to people. It's like, don't lean into your brokenness. People put stuff on Facebook all the time. Like, for some reason, their brokenness gives them points. Like, no, you're just broken like the rest of us. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Now go do something about it.
When they start getting into the dark poetry and like awkward phrasing quotes, it's usually a good time to give them a phone call and check up on them.
Yeah.
Do a little welfare check.
And we talked about this on another show where we talked about me posting that white box and people were like, why are you posting the white box? This is over the line. You done crossed the line now. You done post a white box, you crossed the line. And I was like,
That was fantastic.
I was like, no, you think you posting a stupid white box on Instagram and Facebook is changing the world. It's not.
Black box, yeah.
a black box on Instagram and Facebook is changing the world. Like, you got your fist up. Congratulations. Now you're doing something. You did absolutely nothing because you're still insecure because you're black. You're still insecure because you're a woman. You're still insecure because you're low income. You're still an insecure mess, and you're doing nothing to change the world.
It's not wrong, folks. You know, and this is I think a good way to close out the show is that our all of our joking and mean-spirited humor aside, we actually do love you and we want to see you do well for yourselves out there.
Yeah.
So whatever side of the political ideological fence you fall on, we love you.
Yeah.
I know it's hard to believe. I know you hate us. We don't care. We still love you anyway. But we are going to be a little bit rough.
We're
with
rough
you
on ourselves.
because we're rough with ourselves and we're rough with the people that we love.
Yeah.
We don't give anybody any real
You should hear how
latitude.
Scott talks to me during the show when y'all on.
You're gonna make him sound like abusive.
He doesn't slap me, just with his words.
Make it work, woman. But we were tough on you because it's tough love, right? We've been through the things you've been through. All right. I've had my ugly phase. It wasn't that extreme. You guys are definitely winning the prize on that one. But the point is I've been through that phase. Right? Z's had rough times. Lots of them for lots of different reasons. Health problems, mental issues, being poor, all kinds of stuff.
You put a caveat on those mental issues.
All right, listen. The point is that you can relate, and we can all relate. All right. Not everybody has it all together, and you catch people at different stages of their life. Comparison is not appropriate because they aren't you. They don't have your problems. But I'll tell you what: if you ask God for help, He'll always give it to you. But you have to actually want it. If you lean into the skid and you go off the cliff, and then you decide to shave your head and give yourself an artificial underbite, put tattoos on your forehead, and put hairy armpit photos on the internet and dye your hair blue and start
fuss with
marching
your
with
husband.
Antifa. Listen, you're not doing yourself any favors. You're trying to burn an already burning building more, right? You're just adding gasoline to an existing fire. You got to stop and course correct, no matter how much your pride tells you to do otherwise. Because there's no future for you, right? There's no future. There's no utopia, right? I don't know how you can believe that or lie to yourself and convince yourself it's true. You have to know deep down, though, that everything you're doing is stupid, that it's self-destructive, and that it makes you ugly. Anyway, we hope you find your way out of that hole. Give us a call sometime. Send us a text or an email. We'll actually respond. We'll throw you a shovel, maybe even a rope ladder. We'll try and get you out of that hole, but you got to be willing to help yourself first, all right? Anyway, we love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in this week and dealing with us. Oh, and dealing with those pictures. My God, I'm going to need bleach for my eyes.
Just look at me, baby.
So gorgeous. Anyway, we love you all. God bless, and we'll see you next time.
You guys are awesome. We love having you here. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. But did you know that we're actually part of a larger network? You find us on The Urban Conservative or tuconservative.com.
TUconservative.com is a conglomerate of a bunch of different shows and podcasts. You've got our show, Two Americas. You've got the Twins show, The Urban Conservative. You've got David Hensley's show, The Hensley Report. And of course, you've got Freedom Talk with Clarence Henderson.
So if you want to see more of this swirl, you got to get behind the paywall. $10 a year. It's basically ceremonial, honestly. You guys aren't making us rich. You're just making it possible. So if you want to contribute to people like us, to freedom fighters, to content creators, to the merchandise and all the other options and all the other bloggers and contributors that are on the way in the future, give us that small, measly amount of money and you can forward our ideological battle to the moon. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you.
Come here. Seriously, get lost. We need a moment.